produced and in what quantities. So these gray markers, that shows when a country produces more than 10 million barrels per day. And you pretty much have the United States and Russia. And the white one is 4 to 7 million barrels per day, that's China. But 2 to 4 million barrels per day, there's actually a lot of countries that do that. So I only chose a couple. Canada, Mexico, Venezuela, that's this little blue thing here, Brazil, Iraq, and Iran. Also, I missed Sudan when I was talking about Saudi Arabia, sorry, thank you. When I was talking about more than 10 million barrels per day. So if you were to go into energy, here's one example of how you're going to interface with people from all over the world. Another example, this one, I really like this example. Rare earths. Does anybody know what rare earths are? Can you define it for me? Minerals, rare earth minerals. What goes into making your silicon chips? Exactly. So you have all of these rare earth mineral deposits that go into making very high-end electronics for consumers. So what the white dots show are deposits or mines. So in case you weren't aware, most of our rare earths actually are coming from China right now. But where China is getting a lot of them from is in Africa. So let's say there's some tribal war in Africa. I believe it's in the Congo where a lot of the mines are. And if the conflict was driving up the price of mining in Africa, how would that affect the price of the rare earths bought by companies in China? It would drive them up, right? So if you're, say, Apple, and you need to buy your chips, the cost of your chips is determined by African conflict. So at the end of the day, it's nearly impossible to really escape global affairs, even if you're in engineering, especially if you're in engineering, in fact, because manufacturing, production, is a big part of engineering, right? So if you look at the amount of workers in industrial sectors, right, such as iron, steel, automobiles, chemical fertilizers, garments, processed foods, and electronics. Engineers have a hand in all of those things, right? If you look at where your workers are located, 30%, and I chose the female one because I'll tell you in a second, but 36% of all female workers who work in these industries are in China. 11% are in Southeast Asia. It's on India, but it's Southeast Asia that number belongs to. So in China, for example, 44% of the industrial workforce are made up of females, right? So where you are in the world, what you're producing, the cost of producing it, the difficulties, the challenges, the benefits, they're all determined by how well you can interface with people in other countries and who speak other languages and have a diverse background relative to yours. So ultimately, engineering and diversity and global citizenship, they're coupled. You really can't have one without the other in today's world, in an ever-increasingly interconnected and globalized world. So I chose this example because I think it's really neat, and it shows how diversity can change what types of problems an engineer will go after. So this guy, William, I'm going to mess up his last name, so I'm going to spare myself. But his name's William. And William made his first windmill at the age of 14. Now, he lives in Africa, and at the time, his community was suffering from a massive drought. There were multiple people who were dying from starvation, and William decided that despite all of that, he really wanted to make a windmill so that he could power his house and that he could irrigate his family's crops. So the story reads that all of these people are just looking for food, right? Famine, death, starvation, and there's this 14-year-old boy who wants to build a windmill. And everybody's just looking at this boy like, what are you doing? Why? They thought he was crazy, right? Because why would you waste time building a windmill, let alone the fact that they also thought he was probably practicing witchcraft, that instead of foraging for food. But what ended up happening is that William built his windmill. He was able to power his home, and immediately, members of the community lined up to charge their cell phones, which is a whole nother story. I won't even get into that story. But today, later on, a few years down the road, he had had a lot of trouble actually getting the windmill to irrigate the fields, and that was because of the pumps. So someone asked William, well, did you try Google? And William's response was, Google what? William didn't have the access to the internet the way that you and I, all of us have today. And so when he was finally able to get on the internet, start Googling windmills and seeing all of the solutions that exist on how to build a windmill, his immediate thought was, where was Google all this time? So the diversity between William and his community, right? His community was trying to solve one problem. He ended up going down a different path and looking to solve another problem, or solving the same problem from a different angle. Ultimately, it led to a really good solution that was extremely beneficial to his community. Another example, I promise this is the last example. I'm going to move along. I'm trying to move along. This again, a really cool example. It's called the Hippo Roller. Originally, I actually can't remember what it was originally called, but if you Google, if you go to hipporoller.org, you can find this website. This is a company that was started by two South African men. And if you're not familiar, availability of water to most people in the world, it's not very available, right? Most people in the world have to walk to a water source, put it into some type of container, and then walk back. And this is actually, we could talk about that one for days, so I'm not going to go down that story. But that's another story of your reality and how different people live in the world. But these South African men saw how much wasted effort was going into carrying this water, this back-breaking work, how challenging it is. I mean, in all honesty, right, look at all of these women. That probably is at least 5 gallons of water. Are very many people, do you think you could balance 5 gallons of water on your head? I really don't think I could. And for who knows how even long. So what these gentlemen saw was a potential, they saw a problem and they saw a potential solution, because they saw the community that they were in, they understood the needs of the community, and what they were able to develop is this really neat piece of technology on the right-hand side, which is the Hippo Roller, right? So what a simple, elegant solution. A very tough, durable container that has a handle so you can wheel it. Instead of lifting water onto your head, you can wheel water along. So this diversity that I keep talking about, it changes the type of problems that you go after, but it also changes how effective your solutions are. If you're an engineer in the United States trying to develop a solution for someone in Africa, how can you really understand what that customer's needs are? How can you really understand their specifications, their requirements? Now, I'm not saying that you can't do it, but if you want to do it, there are going to be some steps required in getting to empathize with that group and understanding who they are and what they need and what their reality is. So, oh, I lied. There's one more example. Okay. But I love this phone. So, the last example. Smartphones, right? Okay. I'm going to do a better one. Raise your hand if you don't have a smartphone. Okay, all right. So a lot of people have smartphones today, right? Now, when you think of electronics, what type of engineering do you initially think of? Shout it out for me. Electrical, software? Software? Mechanical, okay, awesome. So someone who said mechanical, what does the mechanical engineer do? I can't hear you. What would a mechanical engineer work on this phone? Machining? Design? Exactly, all of those components have to go into something, right? So you have the case, you have the material that the case is made out of. Now, who has dropped their iPhone and shattered the screen? Okay, so personally, I think that's when a mechanical engineer was not doing their job properly. But you need someone who can design a screen that wouldn't shatter. When the device falls, which side does it land on? Does it land flat on its face, or is it prone to landing on a corner? I actually have the HTC One. I dropped it the other day, and it landed flat on its face, and the screen didn't shatter. So that engineer is doing a good job. So you don't just have electrical engineers. You don't just have software engineers or computer scientists. You have a huge group of people that all have engineering technical backgrounds that go into making that device. So electrical, plastics, hardware, software, rapid prototyping, technical writing, machining, packaging design, graphic arts, industrial design. So if you're going to work on something like the iPhone, you're going to interface with a lot of different types of people. And I'm sort of beating a dead horse here, so I promise I'll move on. But at the end of the day, if you want to be successful in engineering, the more you are able to interface with different people from different cultures and different backgrounds, the more successful you'll be in bringing that product to market. So ultimately, to me, global citizenship in engineering means each person adds value to the team. It may not always be apparent, but when you have a team of engineers with diverse backgrounds, they each bring unique experiences. They each predict different problems. One person on the engineering team is going to foresee a potential problem in one area that another engineer didn't see at all. They're also going to come up with creative solutions, like making a windmill out of bicycle parts, right? That's what that kid William did in Africa. At the end of the day, your engineering team, that diversity, it helps create a better product. So finally, the world. We have the big picture, global citizenship, engineering. We have you and me, us being diverse people. We have engineering, where diversity fits in engineering. And now finally, what does that mean for the world? What now? So this was kind of a cool picture that I found on Wired.com. Does anybody read Wired? I love Wired, lots of tech geekery. And they took all these hashtags that were world problems, associated with world problems, and they put it into a tag cloud. And this is a really neat form of data visualization that a lot of people are doing these days, so you can start to see the issues that are floating around the internet, right? So we have climate change, ecological footprint, energy infrastructure. Those all sound like problems that engineers work on, right? At the end of the day, the world has lots of problems, and engineers are perfectly poised to solve those problems and to work on those problems. So how? How can you, as a student, get involved? What can you do? What are the next steps? The first one that I really like is to get inspired. And see, that's what that little light bulb is for. There's a website called Engineering for Change. If you're not familiar with it, you can go online and look at it. You're probably already online right now, so you might as well go to the website. I'm only half kidding, I'm sorry. I have a terrible sense of humor. So Engineering for Change, on their website, they have something called Learning Resources, or a learning lab. And the first thing that you'll see are design principles. So Engineering for Change says these design principles are things that you can do to incorporate global citizenship and diversity into your product as an engineer. So the first one is develop appropriate solutions, not technologies, right? So think about where your technology is going. Will they have the resources to maintain it? Will they have the expertise to maintain it or fix it? The second one is to consider the context, right? Again, this goes back to where, but it also goes into the time, the political climate. The third is to create transparent technology, right? So if you put this mysterious black box out into the middle of the desert and the people who are living there can't figure out how it works, it's probably going to break, never be serviced, and it was a lost effort. The fourth is to embrace the market. So this means designing for price. Now, some of you have probably heard of design for manufacturability or design for assembly. This means think about the end price of your product and can your consumers actually afford it? And the fifth is do it yourself. Some of those best solutions are when the end user is involved in the design, right? So think of William. He's the one who's using it. So if we include his voice on the product that he's using, how much better does that product become? The second thing that you can do is to think about local opportunities. So at San Jose State, raise your hand if you've heard of Engineering Ambassadors, the Engineering Ambassadors Program, EAP. Awesome. Are you EAP? I can't see. So do you want to say anything about EAP or?
So the Engineering Ambassadors Program is a program that goes around, we like to talk about engineering, and we kind of advertise engineering to younger students, and we try to inspire them to actually consider engineering as a major. So that's one of the biggest things we're doing. And we also do a lot of volunteer work throughout the college of engineering as well.
Awesome. You guys are great. I really like what EAP does. So that's one opportunity where you can get involved in something local that works to improve the immediate community. You don't have to go overseas to start being a global citizen. The second opportunity is the Salzburg Scholars Program. So this was the program that I am currently in, and it's an 18-month commitment. You take a class in global citizenship, you go to Austria, Salzburg, Austria, and you attend a week-long seminar on global citizenship, and then when you come back, you're asked to help globalize San Jose State. What does that mean? It's up to you. You get to create a project. I didn't put GTI on there, and I can't believe that I didn't put GTI on there. I'm very sorry, but if you have the opportunity to apply and go to GTI, it is fantastic. I haven't personally gone, but I know it's fantastic because a lot of my friends have gone and have come back just so happy that they made time for it. Finally, you have to try. So a lot of times we get kind of paralyzed in our efforts, sort of thinking, oh, I can't do that. Oh, that'll never work. Oh, I'm not good enough for that. And admittedly, even preparing for today, I became paralyzed with fear of, wow, my talk is really going to fall on some deaf ears. Like, nobody wants to listen to this. And I was really lucky that a friend told me, if even one person in the audience hears what you're saying, then it's worth it. So at the end of the day, just putting out the effort can go a long way. And so I chose this quote from Margaret Mead. Never underestimate the power of a few committed people to change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. So, you, engineering in the world. The take-home message, through your diversity, technology can make a difference. You can embrace global citizenship, and you don't have to go overseas to do it. You can start doing it in your day-to-day life. And again, on the note of trying to keep the talk as interesting as possible, I have another YouTube video. And so to set up the video, I'll tell you that it's about a piece of technology and a business that had a vision of trying to do something good in the world. So think about the engineers who make that technology and whether or not they really understood what they were trying to do. Oh, of course. Let's see. I know, everyone needs to get off the internet. Can you please turn off your Wi-Fi cards? So with that, I'd like to thank you for having me. Thank you for your attention. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to get to share these thoughts with you. So you can find me at my website. If you have questions or want my slides, I'm more than happy to share them with you. I don't know if you have to write an assignment about it. I also have to acknowledge the Salzburg faculty because they are the ones who taught me everything that I presented to you. Astrid, David, Johan, Xenia, Reinhold, Sadvana, and Farid, and also the San Jose State professors who put together the Salzburg program, Dr. Reckmeyer, Dr. Andy Wood, and then Dr. Nagnos and Dr. Linstell for having me here today, and of course, my peers in the program. If you have questions, I'm here to take questions, but if not, yeah. So.